This stuff here, Yerushalmi Eruvin, in the article is edition where Mamish the top of Samacharab begin new parak, Kol Gago Sa'ir, and in the Vilna that is on Nun Hey Omid Beis, also the beginning of a new parak, Kol Gago Sa'ir. And we have a nice, not that we need necessarily a picture of this, but we have one, so why not? All the roofs here, they're all different levels, right? So all the rooftops of the city are all considered one rishus. Koga go see Rishus Achas. If actually Gagavo Asar Namach Asar, but Divrei Meir, according to Meir, only has one. The roofs are not more than 10 tefachim higher than the ones next to it, as you see here. They are. So according to Meir, these roofs are not be considered Rishus. Chamimim say Kol Echad V'Echad Rishus Ne'atzmo. Each and every one is a Rishus by itself, whether they are separated by 10 tefachim or not, and as long as no eruv, you can't carry from one to the other. Shimon Omer, Shimon is the most lenient, as the Gemara points out, Mekel Mikulon. He says that, he says, I should read the Mishnah first, Echa Gagos, Echa Chatzeres, Echa Karpefos, whether it is, you have a gag, or a yuchatza, which is a front yard, a carpet, which is usually a backyard, the yard which is used for storage and such like. They are all they all came to They in the Bible you have the word words rishus achas, which I probably just missed inadvertently from Yerushalmi. There were one rishus achas that came to Shavs for the kalim which were in them. The low came to Shavs by its half came which were in the house. We should read the Korban Eda here. You should make a cool of Amar Chatzeres Gagos Karpefos She'en Yosim based on if they're not more based on sign, in which case they're karpaf and not the other type of karpaf, right? We can't carry. However, since they don't have a special usage with Tadia and not a constant usage, Rishus Achas saying that one Rishus telling me Zel Zay carry one for the other below Eruv. Without an error, filiu gagos kuvos or nemuchos miyud, even there's a discrepancy more than 10 fachim. But let's say we should error chatzes mishum heterkle bayis. The only reason we need a error chatzes is to carry stuff from the house into chatzes gagos karpefos and vice versa, but not to carry stuff which is within the gagos chatzes karpefos. Okay, so don't think we have to read the rest of the Let's see the Gemara. Rabbi Yossi Bud Amar Ispagum Rav Shmuel. There's Machlekes Rav and Shmuel. So according to Korban Eda, Pliber Shmuel Gagin Hashavin, where you have equally high roofs, Shein B'Hem Gagavah Nomach B'Yisrael Meir. We can carry from one to the other, because none is more than 10 fach from the other. And Begagi Chidi, Rabbanim, by an individual roof according to Rabbanim. What is the machlokas? Shumar a base of sign. You can't carry throughout all the roofs of the city, you only get up to a base of sign. When a base of sign, it's a karpaf, it's a hukaf ledira, and you can't carry. Ramar Matali Bafilu Kura Filu Karaim, no, even a Kura Karaim, there is no limit. You keep going from roof to roof. According to Shimon, you can go from Chatzer to the karpaf, the roof. No matter how extensive the network is. Okay, so it says they want to say that Mapli Meir Rabban, our Makluk said Meir Rabban our Mishnah, where Meir said all the gagos are one rishus, and Chacham said each gagos is a separate rishus. Kshirvu, the house below made an eruv. That Rabban holds the eruv is not below, doesn't work on top, and Meir holds that the eruv below does work on top. And you can carry from one to the other. But they didn't make an eruv. Lo, there's no machlokas that you can't carry from one to the other, even according to Meir. It doesn't say the word lo in the Gemara, but Ephraim, Reb Chaim Kanievsky, they put it in Avishaloiv lo. Right? There's machlokas only when there's an eruv, but if there's no eruv, then even Meir holds you can't go from one roof to the other roof. Right? Says Gemara, no. Pasuk shekulam b'nam echad. We talk about where they all belong to one person. So they all belong to one person. Even there, we have Machlokes Meir Rabbanan, which is amazing, Chiddush, which is that according to Rabbanan, you still, because they are separate below, you can't go from one to the other, even though they all belong to one person. But according to Meir, since they all belong to one person, you can go from one roof to another roof. Okay, that's one pshat in the Gemara, a simple pshat in the Gemara. Another pshat in the Gemara is given by the Gilin Ephraim, that this is going specifically according to Shmuel. And the whole discussion here is that the according to Shmuel says that if it's more than basic science, it's a problem. So that which I may have said that it's a problem if it's more than basic science is only when they made an Eruv, because that unites all of them together, and they're since they're not separate, so therefore you have a problem. It's a kappa shaluka fladira. Whereas one hold, no, it's said that each one is separate, so there's no problem. Just like they're divided below, they're divided on top, so it's not an issue. But and the air below doesn't not effective on top. So therefore, according to Shmuel, it's according to Meir, it's only issue of where they made an eruv. According to Rabbanan, the eruv doesn't work in any event. And then the Gemara answers, no, that it's possible to about even where it belongs all to one person. That even though all the roofs belong to one person, according to Meir, since there are chilukei diurin, since they're distinct, each one is distinct, so therefore you have a problem of parts to base the same. It's an amazing chiddush, but that would be what it's saying, that pasuk shekulim b'shel echad, even they all belong to one person, you can't carry from roof to roof. It's not a problem of uniting different rishus, which then become a base of hukah of the dira. Even this one rishus, so it's one person, it's not hukah of the dira. So therefore, you only get to go up to base of sign. So that would be comes out according to Meir super chumrah. We thought Meir is a kula. According to Shmuel, it's a chumrah, right? Because we thought Meir meant you can carry it throughout all the roofs, right? No matter as long as they're not 1/10 tefachim higher than the other, right? See, so it says no, only at the base of sign. Even all the roofs belong to one person, you still only get to carry up to if there's not base of sign connected on all the roofs together. Now you might ask, why complicate things? Just go with the first shot, right? That's the question is the question is Rabbanan, like we explained the first way, without bringing Shmuel into the picture, because later on it seems that Shmuel is part of this picture because of the discussion which comes in later on in the Gemara. So I want to go over that again. The simple shot in the Gemara is that Mapli Rameir Rabbanan She'irvu. Machlokes is when he made an Eruv, and Rameir holds the Eruv is effective, and Rabbanan holds the Eruv is not effective, because it's Avashlo Eruv low, but they didn't make an Eruv. There's no Machlokes. You can't go from one roof to another roof. Says no, even they all belong to one person. According to Rabbanan, you can't go from roof to roof. According to Rameir, you can't go from roof to roof, so it's not separate. And then the Ephraim says no. It's the Machlokes is going to Shmuel. It's according to Shmuel when that we think that Shmuel's problem based on Saim is only where they made an Eruv. So now they're all united. There's no Eruv, so each one is distinct. So therefore, there's no issue of base of Saim. Says even other than Echad, even though it belongs to one person, he still can't get to go the more than a base of Saim according to Rabbi Meir. I mean, even according to Rabbi Meir. So you go from roof to roof, only get up to base time, even if they all belong to one person. Okay, it's not properly mukaf l'dira. Now the Gemara goes to another issue. Then we'll come back to Shmuel later on. The Gemara says, "Mastishin shekulam only obesum tzui obesum mitzui." The Armish is about where everybody accesses the roof with the same type of ladder, either a sulam tzuri, which is a large ladder, or a sulam mitzui, which is a small ladder. But if one guy goes up to the roof with a sulam mitzri, with the Egyptian ladder, the large ladder, the small ladder. All the people go up to the roof with a small ladder. One goes up to the Tyrian ladder, which is a large ladder. Also, so then, no matter who owns the roofs, the guy who has the Sulam Tzuri, it becomes his opening to all the roofs, and all the roofs now belong to him. you can vashar nasa kimitarpes oil kimitarpes v'orid, and the other ones now become as if they have to climb up, not like rope climbing up to the roof, even though they actually have a ladder. It's like they're climbing up and climbing down. So we can carry in the whole all the roofs, and they can't carry. Right? Um, in other words, all the roofs now, the way he brings down the Kohen Chaim brings down from the Bavli, that since they weren't makbid to make a summa kavua, they're meichel to him. They only have their small ad hoc ladders, so all mochel usage to the guy who has the large ladder. But then that's his based on the Bavli. He says the Yerushalmi without that could be saying that it has to do with Svari had it back in the 8th paragraph of when it's one tashmisho kosher, one tashmisho bakal. So then we give it to the person's tashmisho bakal. Now, although it's not explicit, I assume what it means is that he can take from his house up to the gagos. They can't take from their houses up to the gagos, because even though they own it's over their houses, they have ownership rights there. Choshen mishpat. They can have air rights. They can build up. No, it doesn't matter, because since he is this guy is tashmisha bekal, the other they're tashmisha bekosha, or because it's if they're mechtim, he gets to take stuff from his house up to the roofs, and nobody else has the right to do so. They can climb up and climb down, meaning without carrying anything. Okay, now we come back to Machlokas Rav and Shmuel, and which is why before I guess going to Gil Ephraim it was easier to say that we're discussing Shmuel, and because the question is, the Gemara is being about each shita here. In each question in the Mishnah, as it relates to the Mishnah. Now we're talking about an individual roof. Rabbanan said, the passage in the Mishnah was that when Chacham said, and carrying each roof, right? So Shmuel says you can carry the entire roof, the individual roof, according to Rabbanan. Rav said, no, you only get 4 amos. It's like a carmelis. That according to Rabbanan, each roof is like a carmelis, and therefore you only get 4 amos. That's it. So, Masisa Pila Rav. The Fine Bright seems to argue in Rav. It says, Gag Goda Samach Gag Samach Katan. So we have a big roof next to a small roof. There's a picture in the art scroll. To find the art scroll here on my desk. A second here. I don't know if you need the picture, but we have a picture. Why not show it? Right? You have a Gag Goda, which is adjacent to a Gag Katan. See? So one overextends beyond the other. So Agoda Mutter. The Goda is Mutter because it's not considered to be ports to the small Gag. Vakatan also. The small Gag is also they can't carry because they're ports to the big Gag, and there's no air between the two. So Nicha Goda Mutter. So according to Rav, I understand the Goda is Mutter to carry, according to Rav, without Amos. Okay. But then Hakatan Osir, what do you mean Hakatan is Osir? Hakatan Osir without Amos? You can't carry 4 Amos? V'yesh Osir without Amos? Nobody holds you can't carry 4 Amos in a Carmelis. Of course you can carry up to 4 Amos in a Carmelis. So what do you mean Osir here? If you're going to say that even the God Godol, according to Rabbanan, you can't carry more than 4 Amos, the implications that the God Cotton, and therefore it says mutter means you can only carry the 4 amos. So in the case of God caught, you can't even carry 4 amos. We never heard such a thing. So the fascinating answer. Rav and Shmuel, they both answer according to, they collaborate and answer according to Rav. What's the pshat here in this case of the God and God Kotan? So he said that Rav Shmuel Arba Amos Lifnei Pesach. If the God Godol gets to go 4 amos into the God Kotan, but not the God, because since the God Kotan is tougher to the God Godol. So they get 4 amos, not just, they got to go beyond their Gag, into the Gag Kotan 4 amos. So Rav Lusha there, whereas the Gag Kotan gets 0 amos. They only get 4 amos inside their own Gag. They get 0 amos inside the Gag Godel. Okay? So it's a very, very fascinating answer. Reb Chaim says it's not 4 amos in the Kotan, rather the Godel gets 2 amos in its own and 2 amos in the Kotan, and the Kotan gets nothing in the Godel. Okay, but anyway, it's still a very big kiddush, that answer. The Gemara gives a different answer. Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Mishem Shmuel. Again, Shmuel seems like Shmuel is saying according to according to Rav. Before I get there, I wrote inside my Gemara that Rabbi Yosef, that the gadol can go extend its 4 amos. It's kind of like Reb Chaim. Extend its 4 amos into the katan. Suppose the katan can't extend its 4 amos into the gadol. Okay, no, it's specifically 2 by 2, but it's extending its 4 amos. It doesn't get up complete 4 amos. It extends its 4 amos into the katan. Going back again to Rabbi Yosef B'Shem Shmuel, a lot of different interpretations in this answer, but he says going to what seems to be most simple interpretation, Meir Simcha. The is there Meir Simcha? Yeah. So he says that Shosham Pesach Pasuach Lagag. There's an opening from the Chotzer to the Gag, like was the Sulam we talked about before. So I might say, like we said before, that this guy who has the opening, he can now carry in all the gagos, like before. Right? So he says, like we said before, the guy who has the Sulam Turi, he can use all the gagos, take stuff from his yard or his house up to the Gag. So I think I said before from his house, but it's also from his yard, because we're not going in Rabbi Shimon, who holds that they're all Rishus Achas, Gagos, Chatzeres, Karvevas, going with the it's going right now in Main Rabbanon, and we talk about even stuff from the house, and then even stuff from the house and from the yard up to the to there. So I feel okay. Gadol mutter, the gadol is mutter. He's allowed to. They're allowed to take in the gadol from up the stairs, up the Pesach, and carry it throughout the gadol. But you can't take stuff from the below and bring it to the katan. Because the katan is paratz miyuluah to the gadol, and it's not evidently because it's a gag and not two chatzeres next to each other, where there are all sorts of ways in which the chatzer is tafel to the gag. But we're going now according to Rabbanon, who hold that each gag is distinct, and therefore you can't carry at all stuff from the chatzer into the katan. So that's what it means. We're always carry stuff down almost inside the katan, but you can't carry stuff from the chotzer up to the gadol and then into the katan. Into the gadol, yes. Into the katan, not. Okay. So and this is not going into a lot of complications, which the Moshe and the article I have here about there being roofs on, there being the walls on the roof, because the Pashas Gemara is not dealing with that. So again, he says, it's not parts of Milua to the Katan. So you can't take stuff from below on top. We bring a price that elaborates on our Mishnah. Right? Meir had a dialogue with Rabbanan. And Meir said you can go from roof to roof. Right? Rabbanan said not. So Meir says, don't you concede to me the point? If you have kalim which were in the chutzner, they didn't take it from the house into the yard, so we eliminate that issue, right? We're talking about kalim which were on Erev Shabbos, Ben Hashmosh in the chutzner. Shemisad in the chutzner, taking them from chutzner to chutzner. There's the whole issue of Erev. It's things from houses to the chutzner, and then to another chutzner, but not to. And the chotzer, you go from chotzer to chotzer. You're reminding me about that. Why a gag was different? Manishtana gag mi chotzer. What's the between a gag and a chotzer? Amalei said, "Lo imamata b'chotzer she'en l'durin lamata." A chotzer is different because it has no durin lamata. There's no the distinct houses below which separate the chotzeros. Here you have distinct amar b'gag she'en l'durin lamata. Here it's different because there are distinct houses below which separate each roof from the other. And therefore you can't carry from one roof to the other. Amar said to them, Mau. So we're going to learn here that like the Pnei Moshe, not like Carbonada, because the Pnei Carbonada learns that there's a chotzer above a gag, which seems to be punching in the Gemara, but it doesn't really work out so well in the Pnei Moshe. And similarly, Chaim says in Pnei Moshe, you're using a gag like a chotzer. Michael Meyer, Gankin, Yesh can do in Chaluk Lamata. Feel like Muta Taltel Kalim Shabatu Shab Subasaicha. Right? If you use your gag as a chotzer, right? So then aren't you allowed to go from one part of that chotzer to another part of the chotzer? The way that the Reb Chaim might say it is that there was a chutz, the houses had a chutz on their roofs. Girls all went up there with the ladders and all using it like a chutzner. So in any event, Meir assumes if there's a gag which serves like a chutzner, so then you surely are moitim in that case, right? So why not in any gag? So again, let's see inside. No, that doesn't matter. It still won't do any good. A chutzner which is flush to the ground. You can't each person can't tell his place. In other words, if there's no walls between them, so they're all blurred. They all blur together. So therefore, we made all the chatzer shusachas. But here, to Tomar Gag, because they're distinct below, they are distinct. You can tell on top each chutzner being separate, being distinct, and therefore, even if a chutzner on top of a gag, doesn't matter. They're still considered to be separate. It's not like chatzeros, which are all flush and indistinct. Here, the distinction of the house below separates them from each other. The mayor said, "No, I'm not buying that." PCOs. You have a chutzner which has a lot of chatzeros together, and they have low walls between them. CPOs, low walls, less than 10 because they're still distinct. They are distinct, and you never let's carry from one chutzner to another chutzner. So here, okay, so you can tell from below that they're distinct because of the urine below. So what? It's like several chatzeros next to each other where they're low walls. You can still carry from one to each other, regardless of distinction. Here too, fact that they're house below. So what? So the Gemara says, "Ad kan ha'isa tshuva." The responses went, but the dialogue went up, back and forth up till here. So. I think what he means is that our record of the conversation ended there. Yosef says, but they could have responded to him. I'll tell you what they could have responded. Now that Yosef had a different Masorah, but he's saying, no, there's a response that they could have given even in those circumstances. So again, Rabbi said, "Boom, you come back in machine in front of Amrullah Loim Amarta Mechatzer." The here it says Shemechitzo Seah. The but the Nam Yerushalmi, I think it's doing the prime. Yeah, and evidently Tesis Reid will bring down this Gemara, say that it should be reversed. I wonder if Chaim actually also reversed it. He doesn't. Okay, but anyway, we'll go with them. By a chutzer, there aren't mechitzas that should go up with it. In other words, no val mechitzas of 10 tvachim. Right? Even your one just divided with the CPOs, right? It's divided less than 10 tvachim. Tomar begag here shem mechitzoseh olosimo. There's good asik mechitz though. There are walls below, and it sounds like the Chachamim shita is even in the mechitzos are not nikoros. You can't see them from being on the roof, but we know there are walls below which separate the houses. So therefore, those walls are real walls. They're tefach walls. So therefore, they divide up, and each gag remains distinct. It could really be either scenario here. You know, it's not clear which one I'm referring to. This one here, where there's mamish no distinction between the two, but we can see from the side that the real walls. So you can't see any top. But even this one where you can see on top there's a distinction, but it's not. It's less than 3 tvachim across. In any event, so we know the real walls and the distinctions below. Suppose you're a chutzner where there aren't real walls with it. V'hu meim alone. Well, Ram may respond to this. He would say to them, "Afana isli omo kavoy." He says, "I hold that the walls below, which are not full walls on top, right, because they're not nicker on top, are no different than the walls by the Gagos, are no different than the short walls by the Chutzner, which are not full walls. So it says these are not, they don't reach the parameters of walls, so there's no difference whether you have a short wall psipus between Chatzeros or a full wall, but below the Gag, which is not, and the Gag doesn't distinguish, therefore it's all one Rishus. Okay, so now we add another couple of Tanoim into this discussion here. Tani Amr Rabbi says, B'shas Gzeira. At the time there was a Gzeira, there weren't allowed to learn Torah evidently, so we had to kind of like get away from the authorities in order to be able to learn. So so we had to move our Sfarim around. We take the Sefer and only Chatz Gag. We saw them coming. We went from the Chatz Gag, Migag Gag, Achem from roof to roof, Vyoshin Korin. So he said to Rabbana, you see, we went from Chatz Gag and Gag to Gag. So Amr said, Ein Shas Gzeira. The fact he did it at the time of the Gzeira, that's not a raya. So in other words, Shas Gzeira, certain things goes on, which in the arts called Shas Shmad. And then we have another shita, which is the shita of another story, I should say. Amar Rebbe said, Shonina Yino to Rabbi Shimon Bitkoa. We're learning Torah by Rabbi Shimon and Koa. Vayinu Notim Shem Balot to take oil and towels. We go from Chatz to the Gag, we gabla karpa, from Gag to karpa. Achimagino karpa, samach lamaya, until we reach the karpa, which is immediately adjacent to the spring. V'yorim tevlin bo, and they would go down to the and tevel there. So Ashkas Amar Arba Palgavon. So now we're going to come up, based on these additional stories, we're going to come out with 4 Tanoim who argue about the story, the issue with the Gagos, Chatzeros, and Karpefos, but already we're on the next Amud, so we'll leave that for tomorrow.